and he said to me, "This is failing and you need it replaced."
And went to see what was going on and realised that she was in real trouble. Dialed 999 and immediately commenced CPR. Air ambulance critically produces a doctor. That was the game changer.
I was in an induced coma for a while. So, you know, it was fairly traumatic.
In the UK, only 10% of people survive an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest.
I'm quite clever at masking everything, so I spent quite a lot of time pretending that really I wasn't as bad as I actually felt.
The advances in medicine in this whole area are phenomenal.
I think I could have got off the table and walked out the door. Positivity and hope, it's really what drives you on.
Hello, this is Michael George of Sagesse Healthcare Consulting, and this is the pioneering patient podcast in collaboration with Heart Valve Voice, the UK's dedicated heart valve charity. Now, our 70-year-old guest today is almost a walking encyclopedia of heart valve conditions, having had 5 heart valve procedures. Nevertheless, she has a very positive message to bring, and she wants to explain how modern technology is helping her and other patients lead a much better life. So I welcome to the podcast Louise Archer. Louise, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. It's lovely to be here.
It's wonderful. And we have with you your husband Anthony.
Very good to be here as well. Thank you.
Part of the story. So how many years have you been married now?
We've been married 41 years.
46 years.
46 years.
Which one is right?
I was married to someone else before.
1979.
Yeah.
1979.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And tell me about Louise. She's gone through a lot of procedures we will hear about, but she's also full of energy. She's a volunteer. What makes her so great?
She's a Yorkshire girl. That's the secret.
Yes.
And gets things done and calls a spade a shovel occasionally, which is very refreshing. And it's just been a great. I mean, she's really been really strong herself through all this, and it's been although not a journey you'd kind of want to choose, it's a journey that she's done really well.
Yeah. And you've had 3 children together. Yeah. 4 grandchildren?
Yeah, that's right.
Aged 20 to 4,
yeah,
as I understand.
That's right,
so
yes,
I'm
that's
telling
right.
your story for you. But also, you volunteer in the community, you're very interested in the arts, you're very active.
I've been very fortunate, Michael. I've been able to really explore lots of different things in my life. And so volunteered initially with a local charity and then very passionate about the arts.
And we talked about the fact that you had 3 children. Yes. It's when you were about to have a 3rd child, and I think you were in the US at the time, that you heard something about them. You may have some sort of heart murmur. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, that's right. Well, I went initially. You do in America. You go for a checkup, and they give you a proper full health checkup. So, and I went because I was expecting our 3rd child, and the chap said to me, "Well, did you know you've got a heart murmur?" So, it's a bit of a joke, I said, "I've come for a baby. I didn't want a heart murmur," but took that information on. There was a mention, I think, at the time about bicuspid valve, but didn't really attach a huge amount of importance to it. And because we were coming back to the UK, it was thought that it was perhaps best to, take it up again when I got back here.
Mm-hmm. And did you do anything?
No, I didn't really do very much until
that's the Yorkshire girl bit, No, I'm fine.
8 years later, yes.
So you thought nothing of it at all for 8 years, and
then I had no symptoms.
No.
Yes.
But then after 8 years, how did things change?
Well, I think I started to become breathless, and so I started waking in the middle of the night, a bit breathless, which I didn't attach a huge amount of importance to, except that we then went on a trip to Disneyland in Paris with all the children, and I got the flu, and I was really poorly. And then I seemed to take an awful long time to get over that, and thought perhaps best to have some investigations done, which I did.
And so you eventually got to a cardiologist, is that right?
That's right, yes, that's right, yes.
You had a very good GP at the time who I think was his antennae were alert to what might be going on.
Yeah, so he did the right referral for you at that time.
Yes.
And that's when you discovered you had a bicuspid valve.
Exactly.
And what did the cardiologist say needed to happen?
Well, he said to me, this is not good. And he said to me, this is failing and you need it replaced. And it was all quite a shock, you know. I was sort of 42, you know. I thought, I don't know whether this should be happening or not. And they took it very, very seriously. And I was referred, and I had an aortic valve replacement for the first time in 2000. Well, what was the date
1996.
now? 1996, that's right, 1996.
1996. So you had a mechanical valve.
I did,
and
yes.
you were taking warfarin then for the
I was,
following
yes,
years.
yes.
And so then life moved on. The next few years you thought it was all fine?
Yeah, and it seemed to be all fine. But actually the echo suggested that it wasn't really functioning quite as well as it might have done. And so it was thought that actually I would do better with a homograph valve. And so from a little while on from the first surgery, 7 years later, I had another surgery, which was a homograph valve.
And so were you feeling quite ill before the
No, to be honest, I wasn't. But it wasn't leaking so severely that it caused me a lot of symptoms. No. But it was thought that it was better that I would have this homograph valve.
They thought your body was slightly rejecting it. It was going to be kind of gooked up, and that was why it was leaking.
Yeah, because mechanical valve was supposed to be lifelong, but this obviously it didn't work for you. At the same time, you also had another procedure for your heart rhythm, isn't that right? You had a pacemaker, is that right?
Yeah, actually the pacemaker was subsequent to the second surgery.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a consequence of the second surgery, really. So I sort of went in for the homograph and came out with a pacemaker, if you see what I mean.
And explain for the viewer what a homograph is.
Yes, it's a tissue valve, and it's just amazing, really, because the thought was that it might last me sort of 10 years. Well, you know, I was 17 years, you know, so that was really marvellous.
It was donated.
Donated from another person.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And how did you feel about that, having someone else's heart valve inside you?
I think that I just was sort of in awe of everything that could possibly happen. I had when I went ahead with the surgery, there was no promises were made about anything at all. So I really didn't know what to expect to come out with, if you understand me. So and when coming round, you know, I was told, well, this is what you've got. And I am kind of quite pragmatic. So, you know, well, this is what we've got to make the best of it. So, I was acutely aware that it was a tissue valve, but I was very fortunate it worked it was highly successful.
So it worked very well. So for the next 13 years, I think, you were perfectly fine. Yeah. But 2016, maybe 2017, that was an important time for you.
Yeah. I had regular checkups, Michael. So we had echoes and everything like that. So they kept an eye on things and everything like that. But it would appear that the mitral was beginning to be affected, and not quite sure why that would have happened. But and a preventative course was have the mitral replaced or repaired. So that was the plan, and the lead up to that, various checks were made and everything like that. And it was determined that a pacemaker lead needed replacing, which is what I had done. So I had the pacemaker lead replaced first of all.
Yeah. And then, but it was only less than a month later.
Yes, it was. Yes,
July the 26th. It was an important day.
It was. Yes.
Perhaps Anthony can explain that as much as anyone,
indeed.
because you don't recall it.
No, I don't.
I was due in London at a meeting, and I think I left sort of mid-morning. Our daughter was staying at the house, which was not a regular occurrence, but she happened to be there. I think you'd gone out for a walk with her, and she was a bit worried that you weren't great at all, and you actually went to bed, which is, I mean, Yorkshire girls don't go to bed. I mean, unless they absolutely have to. Annabelle then noticed Mum had sort of got up from having a snooze and walked to the study in the house, and went to see what was going on, and realised that she was in real trouble, and dialed 999. and immediately commenced CPR. Now, this was a child who had a big job at CNN and had done all sorts of training, hostile environment, journalism. So she knew what to do, although she can't remember ever consciously thinking that's what I need to do. And she was on her own for 11 very solitary minutes before help arrived.
And so what you were having was a cardiac arrest, and if your daughter hadn't have been there, you wouldn't have come through.
No. Yeah.
So it was so serious that you were helicoptered off, weren't you?
Well, not quite. So what happened? I got a call quite early on, but after 11 minutes, we have a great scheme in Hertfordshire, first responders. So people who come often get there before the ambulance, as it were. The first responder arrived at the same time as the paramedic in a car. So suddenly Annabelle had support and help. And they immediately dialed for the air ambulance, not because Louise needed to be whisked off to Harefield or wherever, but because air ambulance critically produces a doctor. That was the game changer. So the doctor arrived with the team, and I think you were actually in the ambulance outside the house for almost 2 hours, kind of being stabilised.
Pretty traumatic. And you rushed back.
By which time I was on a train back from London, ringing your cardiologist saying, this is what's happened. And there was a great kind of shock and concern all round. And I said, whatever you do not get us at I don't want her at the local A&E. I'm sure they'd be very good, but I want her at a top heart hospital ASAP. If they have a bed, there's no guarantee they could have looked after you. But they were brilliant.
And so what happened during this? When did you start to realise something had happened?
Well, it was some time, wasn't it?
The next week, I think, or Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. This is a Wednesday, and mercifully, neurologically, you were okay. On the Friday, they sort of slightly brought you around because they had to reattach the lead. And here's the great sort of medical conundrum as to why that lead was detached. Was it detached as a result of the lead replacement 19 days earlier, or was it detached because of the CPR? I think you probably think it was detached because of the lead replacement. Who knows? There's another side of the story, which is that the price that Louise had to pay to ultimately come out of hospital 17 days later was to have an upgraded pacemaker. So she's now got an ICD, an onboard defibrillator. And whether or not that's ever been necessary is academic, because that was thought that we weren't quite sure why it happened. But so to keep her safe, that's what she's now got.
They're talking about the mitral valve. They're not sure about the homograft. But you don't feel up to having surgery at that point, do you?
No. I needed time. I needed time out. And so I thought we just needed time of reflection. I needed time to get strong. I needed time to come to terms with what had happened before, what I'd put all the family through and everything like that. And so we sort of just decided just to sit back, sort of, regroup and retrench, really, So that's what we did, yeah.
And when did you decide, right, okay, now it's now time? Was it because of your symptoms worsening, or was it because you felt strong enough?
I think I felt strong enough, and I think the mitral was increasingly
a bit of both, really.
Effective. It was a bit of both. It was a bit of both.
So what was your quality of life like over those couple of years?
It was fine. It was fine. It was fine. It was fine. And I think we were all a bit sort of brittle and fragile around the edges, really, because, you do reflect, obviously you do, 1 minute you're here and the next minute, I was in an induced coma for a while. So, it was fairly traumatic, and especially on the family, I think, to whom I owe a huge debt. But, it was an awful lot harder for them than it was for me.
So tell me, what was it like? And especially if your daughter isn't here to talk about it, that must have been frightening for her, and also for you, being called and told you.
I think she went into autopilot, which was brilliant. I mean, it got me to reflect afterwards on, in the UK, only 10% of people survive an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. That's a very scary statistic. And for every minute you don't do anything, your chances of surviving are reduced by a further 10%. So you imagine it happens, You're out. If you're near Tesco, it's maybe good because there's probably a defibrillator. Yeah. But you need someone to know that, get it, and start doing something. Yeah. I mean, I think the family functioned really, quite well. We had we were quite, in a sense, quite used to the sort of the shocks. What's happened now, as it were. But this was of a different order, really. Yeah. Our son James flew down from Edinburgh there and then. Lucy was in the area, and Annabelle there. We went to Harefield at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and they were very reassuring, but they didn't really know because it was too early to know whether there had been neurological damage or quite what the outcomes might be. But I just kind of felt instinctively that they were in great hands, brilliant world-class medicine. That's all you can really hope for.
Yeah, yeah. And so your daughter was, if she hadn't been there, she didn't know what to do. Yeah. It would have been in the 90% rather than the 10%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There was a huge emphasis on the awareness, It's like, get the message out there. Yeah.
Precisely. So you decide you're strong enough again. 2019, I think you have 2 procedures.
Yes. So 2019, so what happened in 2019?
Well, at that point, you felt strong enough to have the mitral valve
I did,
done.
yes. And at the same time, I had a ring around the tricuspid valve.
So you had a mechanical valve in your mitral valve and a ring on your tricuspid.
That's
so you're
right.
back on warfarin again.
Yes, back on warfarin again now. Yes, for life now.
The medics don't seem to worry too much about the right side of the heart. Don't ask me why, but her tricuspid valve was leaking, possibly only because there's a pacemaker lead through it, which doesn't kind of help it. But anyway, while they were at it, the third open heart procedure, he thought that's a good thing to do.
And at the time when I went and had that surgery, Michael, there was a question about, well, while we're at it, why don't we go for bust, and do the mitral and the aorta again and the angioplasty, And it's really a great compliment to the surgeons because they decided at that time that the aortic valve was not leaking sufficiently to demand that extra burden on my heart at the time. So I had the mitral repaired and I had the angioplasty and then I recovered from that, didn't I?
Yeah, and also I think you spoke to the doctor at the time. You said, why not the aortic? And they gave you hope that actually Louise wouldn't need surgery again.
He said, that's a great question, Anthony. Of course, and I'll tell you what my thinking was. The aortic valve was leaking moderately, but not severely. And I could have done it there and then. It's a bit like your car going for MOT. When it's on the ramp, you may as well do everything, but actually, this is different. You're on a pump. He said it might have taken 20 minutes, it might have taken an hour and a half, and that was an unacceptable risk. Yeah. So I said, okay, well, that's fine, I get that. What happens when it finally fails? He said, don't worry, we'll do a TAVI.
Yeah. TAVI being transcatheter aortic valve implantation.
Never heard of the word.
Never heard it, so you had to look it up. But your homograft didn't improve, obviously can't improve. So your symptoms got worse between then and this year.
Most recently, yeah.
So what was, how difficult was, I think you've said the symptoms were almost the worst in the last few years.
They have been. In the last 4 years, I would say, they became increasingly worse, to the point that it was a real struggle to get upstairs. Really? A real struggle. I had to stop, wait and think, and then start again.
Well, really,
any form of exertion, and even having sat down in a chair and getting up and walking from here to the door was an effort. It was hard work and very tiring. Yeah. So fatigue and that breathlessness, and I'm quite clever at masking everything. So I spent quite a lot of time pretending that really I wasn't as bad as I actually felt. But it became increasingly aware of the fact that I was actually struggling with it. And so then there was the suggestion of the TAVI, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, Louise is so good at masking it that on her 70th birthday in August last year, she said, I want to climb a fell in Cumbria. Yeah. I didn't think this was hugely wise, but there's no stopping a Yorkshire girl. And it took a long time, but
It did.
you felt really liberated and energized that you'd done it.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of a one-off, and it was sort of five steps up, and then wait, and then
It took a long time.
Took a long time.
It won't take so long next year.
No, you're going back. That's good. I'll ask you about that. And what was this like for you? Because you were seeing your wife deteriorate and struggle to walk.
The fact we knew it needed to be done, but of course the advances in medicine in this whole area are phenomenal. Because what the underlying worry was that Louise really it's not recommended to have yet another open heart procedure. I mean, and some people do, and they're amazing, but I think that's to be avoided at her age. But the TAVI science has now marched on. And they assessed you, and you were a candidate for a TAVI, which is brilliant. And so that was the answer. 45-minute procedure rather than 4 hours.
Because you've already had 3 open heart surgeries.
Exactly.
You don't want to. No one wants a fourth. So you could ask, could it have been sooner, the TAVI, around 2025?
Yeah, I could. And I think I rather hoped that things weren't going downhill quite as quickly as they were, to be honest. Yeah. So. And then there was, a question of, well, let's do it, and then let's plan for when it would be best to be done.
Yeah, there's lots of,
toing and froing and thinking about it and everything like that.
Your medical notes now kind of rival War and Peace, and about December last year, the consultant who was going to do it said, and you hadn't sort of made your mind up, he said, I think the time is now right. Looking back, you might have done it
soon.
Only a few months earlier, I think.
Yeah.
So
I skipped in.
You skipped. So what was the procedure? What's your memory of it? You were awake throughout?
It's just unbelievable. It's extraordinary, Michael. It really is. It's unbelievable. And I compare it to how I had, aortic valve surgery 30 years ago now. And when I first went into hospital, and they said it's a 2-week stay here. And they said lots of things. They said if you'd been here 5 years earlier, we would have said no more children. And we would have said maybe you should have all your teeth out because of the chance of endocarditis. And this first 2-week spell in hospital was then 30 years later, is walk into the lab, not a theatre, walk into the lab, and a procedure for which I didn't have a general anaesthetic, and there's everybody around you has a machine of some description. There's not one piece of paper anywhere, and it was just extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. So through a catheter and no open heart surgery, and so I had the TAVI done back in February.
So 21 people on the team,
Amazing.
All with a dedicated job, and screens round the lab, which would make a Goldman Sachs trading room look like a tea party. Unbelievable, really clever.
And it's not just the length of the procedure, the impact of the procedure that's different, but also how do you compare the recovery from one to another?
There's just no comparison at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt better instantaneously. I think I could have got off the table and walked out the door, honestly. It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. So that obviously there's a time you adjust and you sort of think to yourself, perhaps I ought to take things a bit slower. But frankly, the recovery of following it was fantastic. Yeah. And I've just got stronger and stronger. Yes. There's a little while, after every surgery, Michael, where you would like somebody to bottle something called Vim. You need a bottle of Vim and you need it given to you in teaspoonfuls and everything like that. But actually, I didn't need any of that because I just found that I was just getting stronger and stronger. So that was great and a huge difference to getting over, obviously, incisions and stitches and all the risks that come with that. And, and just coming to terms with it as well. So, it's marvellous. I mean, the mechanics of it and everything, that's all in another world as far as I'm concerned. That these amazing guys do their amazing stuff. And, I've just been able to benefit from it hugely.
So what have you been able to do since? What are you doing that you were struggling to do before? Because you said you're worse before.
Yeah. Well, I'm walking obviously further and everything like that, so that's great. It's one of my passions, so I love doing that. And I think actually I'm able to really look forward to doing, days out and things like that without thinking, I wonder if there's a flight of stairs around the corner. I wonder how I'm going to manage getting up there. How can I explain to my friend that I can't get up this hill anymore? Do I really want to hold people back? And everything like that. So we're very busy. We're busy with grandchildren and everything like that, enjoying retirement hugely. And we have a pretty
very
full
fortunate.
So
diary.
How do you feel about this? Now you've got your wife fully back
my new wife back.
Yeah, steady on with the new. Steady on with the new.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, I think throughout the whole journey, we, or Louise in particular, we're very fortunate to have the very best care, and for it to be diagnosed and kind of gripped early on. I mean, you've had more echoes than Michael's had hot dinners. I mean, over 30 years, you probably had 120 echoes. And you need that really, and that's the one way to figure out what's going on. And you're also very fortunate in that your valves are kind of rubbish, but the heart muscle is great, and the coronary arteries are equally good. So you've got all. Once you can fix the valves, that's in a sense job done.
Yeah. And many people who've gone through so many procedures and had a cardiac arrest would say, don't be really angry about why does this happen? Why wasn't I diagnosed early? Or what it might be. But you've got a really positive attitude. You want to give a positive message to other patients.
I really do. Yeah, I really do. I think I would really like to pass that on and say, positivity and hope. It's really what drives you on, and that I've never for 1 minute didn't think anything wouldn't be successful. Now, you could say that was hugely naive of me, but it does help, it helps enormously, and to have the support of your family around you as well. So that's been really, really important. But that hope and positivity, I think it is really helpful, really helpful. I can't reflect on what might have been. It's not a good thought. It's not, it doesn't really help, to be honest. I'm fortunate that, I am able to park all that and move on, So, I think positivity and hope, really.
Yeah. You certainly don't look like someone who's gone through 5 or 3 open heart surgeries and 5 procedures.
Yeah.
And Anthony, a word about your wife, what she's gone through, and still so positive. You must be very proud.
She's amazingly strong, and I'm very proud of her. We sort of journeyed it together in a sense. I've always tried to go with her at every consultation and understand what the medics are saying and doing, and that's been good. But we're very blessed, really, as a couple, as a family, and we want to kind of encourage others. I think we've been very fortunate in that we've had access to and had at every step of the way immediate access to world-class medicine, and not everyone has that. But I mean, everyone can demand that. And if you shout, I would say to people, if you're not sure what you're hearing is what you want to hear, just shout louder and get some support, because I think it is there. And there are some, there's half a dozen world-class cardiac hospitals in the UK, and if you can get to one of them, that's really good.
You say you should be able to demand it, and this is what you're doing with sharing your story through Heart Valve Voices to say, come on, there's a lot out there, and you should take advantage of that.
And look at me, look how far medicine has gone in such a short time, relatively short time. Look at the procedures and look at the innovations and everything like that, and just to really encourage all those amazing techie people that do all that stuff to really do more and invest more in research and development and everything like that.
And you would say that even anaesthetics over 30 years has come, it's no comparison.
Yes.
In
fact, you were awake for your TAVI procedure, for example. And Anthony, in the your children,
Yeah.
grandchildren, they've been an important part of this journey.
Yes, yes,
with
and
you.
involved with the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we've shared it all with them, and so they've been part of it. And I would say one of the messages I like to get across is that if you're fortunate enough to have an advocate with you, wherever you go, in all of this medical business, if you have someone in your corner listening on your behalf, if you have someone in your corner that's listening to the bad bits, as well as somebody like me that only listens to the good bits, that's hugely important. So, I've been really fortunate to have Anthony, who's, as I say, who's been there to hear all the good bits and the bad bits and come away and we have a chat about it. And he's saying, well, do you remember this? And I didn't hear it quite like that. It is really important, really important. And for the family as well, for them to be able to say to us, you know how you suddenly said TAVI, I didn't know what you were talking about, to explain to them. Well, that awareness is really important. So, on a personal level, I would say an advocate is hugely important. And on a professional level, I would just say to these guys that are inventing these amazing things, please carry on, do more and more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you've had your TAVI, you've had all your procedures.
Yeah.
The two of you, the world's your oyster, isn't
Absolutely.
it? What are you looking to do over the next 10, 15, who knows, 20 years?
Well, the most extraordinary thing in a way is that actually I'm now better than ever, really, because I've all got these new bits in me. So, we always lightly compare it to plumbing, take something out that isn't working and put something in that is. So I've got these amazing bits of equipment now that all work really, really well. So that's great. And we've got lots to look forward to,
travel,
haven't we? Yeah, we love
grandparenting.
travelling. We love doing all of that. Yeah, so we're off with family, aren't we, this weekend? We're away and, we're very busy. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Louise. Thank you, Anthony, for telling your story. It's such a positive story. I feel uplifted myself, so that's fantastic. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Meet you.
Very
Nice
good.
to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you. That brings us to the end of another Pioneering Patient podcast. You heard it yourself. Have an advocate, and there's world-class medicine out there, and you must demand it. So great messages from Louise and Anthony. Do contact me if you've got ideas for future editions, and otherwise, please remember to take good care of your health.